from Nashville, Tennessee. It's time for another episode of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow, where all things related to your safety and security are discussed, detailed, and delivered to you. You may leave with a tip that saves you money or a tactic that saves your life. So here are your hosts, owner and founder of Defense Systems, Brink Fiddler, and owner and operator of Herring Technology, Tom Herring.
Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. Brink and Tom with you as always. Today's episode is kind of multifaceted in that it is obviously safety and security related, like it always is. But we're going to talk about things to do on vacation or on a trip or to your home when you have like known planned events, known vacations, all those sorts of things. You know, we're coming up on summertime, and obviously a lot of families like to take vacations in the summers. But there's a lot broader conversation to have in and around what that looks like as far as before you go to a certain area, but also what it looks like as far as protecting your own home during not just vacation, but other pre-planned events, weddings, funerals, things like that. So just to start with, though, I guess the biggest one for me, and we were talking about this earlier offline, but Tom and I are both still dumbfounded when people post on social media like photos of themselves on vacation, talking about how they're enjoying Cabo or the beach is so great, or look at my nice little daiquiri here in Boca Raton, or whatever it is, and you're telling the entire world on social media that you're on vacation right now. And I understand people want to live in the now, but think for just a second about what you're doing. Assuming your home's empty, which most of the time it is. I mean, most people don't pay a guard or a house sitter to sit in their house. You're telling the entire world you're gone when you do stuff like that. I don't understand the mindset, but then again, I think we also understand that most people aren't necessarily wired like us. But like, what do you think you're telling people?
It just, go ahead and send out an advertisement that my house is empty. Here's my address. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of quick flights back real fast once you post that picture.
And law enforcement is so short-handed that more than likely, unless one of your neighbors sees the burglary occur, it's going to come in as an alarm, right? If you have an alarm, if you set your alarm, which that's a whole different topic, but if you actually use your intrusion system, i.e. your burglar alarm, and it goes off, which it's going to if it's installed correctly, that comes in as an alarm, and it's not going to be fast because there's so many false call alarms. It's actually considered in most jurisdictions what's called a code 2 call, meaning, yeah, we're going to it before I go to that whatever silly report, but it's not like lights and sirens. So, on a good day, 15, 20 minutes. On a normal day, well over an hour before an officer's going to arrive at that alarm call. And, it doesn't take any time. I'll never forget being in law enforcement, and we were helping another unit. We did a lot of surveillance, as I know but the audience doesn't. So my unit did a lot of surveillance, so we were really good at it. And so there was another unit that was following a serial burglar and basically waiting to catch him in the act. And they saw him recon in places, but they couldn't catch him in the act. And so we were with them just kind of helping do the surveillance. And this was in Bellevue. And we had eyes on him. He walks up, knocks on the door, which is pretty common, right? You want to make sure nobody's home. It's middle of the day. That's when most burglaries occur, by the way. Those of y'all that don't know, most burglaries occur during the day when you're at work. It's not at night when you're home and could potentially shoot the bad guy. So he walks up, knocks on the door, waits, knocks on the door some more. He pulls out a pair of garden gloves out of his back pocket because there's thing with fingerprints, puts them on, kicks the door in, right? So we know he's in there. And by the time we came around the corner to snatch him up, he was on his way out the front door with the TV off the wall already. Like, it was seconds that he was in there, had grabbed the TV, and was out. And that's just one guy that was after one TV. But how long? They're going to have 5 to 10 minutes, easily to be in your home. And so letting people know that you're gone is not a great idea. Take a bunch of pictures during your trip, and then when you get back, talk about how great a trip you had. Like, it's not that hard, but I think a lot of people just so live in the moment now, or want everybody to see what their steak looks like or whatever. Like, people post on social media, it's crazy. But That's a small one, but that's a free one. Guys, like don't do that unless there are, or sometimes worse. Let's say you're on a trip, like me specifically, but my family's still at home. I'm not putting that I'm out of town. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and going beyond that, just look at the settings on your phone itself for when you're taking pictures, because a lot of times it's tied to a GPS. So you may not be out of town, you may be downtown somewhere. And when you post that picture, it's telling them your location as well. And, there's no need for that. Mm-hmm. No one needs to know your GPS location when you're posting stuff. I have this problem with my sister. She loves to take pictures and post them, and it always ties into the GPS coordinate.
Oh, the geotagging.
I had to tell her this week. I was like, hey, don't put my name on there. I mean,
or turn your geotagging off. They don't need to know
correct.
where every freaking picture you take is taken.
Yeah, and you're getting a lot of spam calls and advertisements and everything because of it. So just be aware of the settings on your personal devices that you're taking around with you.
100%. Well, talking about vacations, the way this topic kind of got started, Madison on our team was talking about on vacation, like what does that look like? What do you take with you? What do you do ahead of time? What do you do while you're there, just to create a safer environment for yourself, your family, your loved ones, whoever's with you? I'll start with what I think you should take, and this is some of it's pretty universal, and some of it's going to be depending on who you are. But universally speaking, before I go, I'm going to do a handful of things. If I've never been to this area before, I'm going to check. Most agencies now have interactive crime maps. You can just look up and just see where most of your hot pockets of crime are.
Some it's not public.
Yeah.
And so you may have to make a call or two.
Right. And by the way, if you're going to make a phone call to a law enforcement agency and you want to make sure you get the right person, I tell people this all the time before you move to a new town. If you don't know what part of town to live in, call the narcotics unit for that police department. They know everything that happens in that town. And you got to think, most police officers don't make a lot of money, right? So what is a good, affordable area of your town that is not crime-ridden? Well, who's going to do that? Who's going to live there? The cops, especially the narcotics guys. So call if it's not readily available, call the narcotics unit and just tell them what area you're looking at staying, and give me some advice. And they don't. I've never run into somebody that won't do that for you because they know everything that happens there.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Bree. People will delay getting on Google or trying to find the crime stats or anything. But you know what they will look at? The reviews.
Oh, yeah, sure.
They will spend days looking at reviews to know where to go eat, where to stay, where to do this. Guess what's not ever in those reviews?
Yeah, crime data. Right.
Because they don't want that in there. They're not going to say, we got broken into. Now, some, of the others, sites will give you, the honest reviews of some, and they'll tell you our car got broken into or whatever. Pay attention to that. But don't go beyond the reviews to decide where you're staying.
Yeah, and look at a map of the area, too. I brought up off line here a minute ago. We used to go to a place in Florida called Amelia Island Plantation. It's a really pretty resort type place, but they have all sorts of different condo buildings. They have villas you can rent. They have clubhouses. All these things, and it's beautiful. But if you arrive at night, you can't see where anything is. There's all these winding roads and all these turns and all this other stuff. And then either that night or early the next morning, if you have something happen, whether it's you need to get yourself or a loved one to an emergency room or whatever that is, and you don't even know your way out of the complex because you didn't take 5 minutes to look at that, right? You're gonna have a resort or amenity map available to you before you even show up, right? They can go on their website, find it, find out where you're staying in that property and how to get in and out of that property before you show up, so that when you do show up, not a big deal if it's at night, during the day, it doesn't matter. I hit on emergency room, so let's go ahead and cover that. Every trip you go on, you should identify the closest emergency room to you.
Absolutely. Know where you're going to go if something does happen.
That's right. People are so dependent on Waze and Google Maps and all the things, and I understand why. But you're counting on all that stuff to work. So if it's a really bad event, severe weather, whatever, and the network's down, your phone may or may not work. So simply understanding where the closest emergency medical, and it may be, the closest thing to use a fire hall that has an ambulance. And so you can get to paramedics at least, right? To start your pre-hospital care. Fine. Identify that before you even get to town. This is not difficult stuff to do, and we've talked about this in the past as far as venues go, but if you're going to football games, things like that, find out where your seats are, look at the map, locate your exits before you get there. This is the same kind of thing. It does not take any time at all, but I am baffled by how many people don't do this.
Well, the other thing that gets me is you look at where all you want to go. If you're going to a new city or you're going on vacation, where they spend the time looking at reviews, figuring out where they want to go. Take a portion of that time and figure out where you don't want to go while you're there, where you don't need to go. To avoid those areas. It's real easy. I mean, not to pick on any towns, but you go to New Orleans, there's some great tourist places. You make 2 left turns, and all of a sudden you're in a place you don't want to be.
Yeah.
Identify that before you get there so that you don't make those mistakes and end up in those situations. And I'm not picking on New Orleans. It can happen here in Nashville. It can happen
Memphis. People still go to Memphis for tourist stuff.
Okay. Okay.
They do.
You threw me off with that one, but no, it is. It's you want to go to Beale Street. You want to go. I mean, and not picking on it. Broadway's the same way.
Yeah.
On a Friday, Saturday night after 10, 11 o'clock, there's some streets down there and alleyways that, we're, especially when they have a lot of one-way streets and you're having to make blocks to get over. You just need to know, I don't want to go that way.
Well, the stadium's a great example of that, right?
Correct.
Where it is, there are areas on that side of the river that are much higher crime and that are stone's throw from that stadium. So certainly know all those things, but trying to avoid certain areas is important, obviously. I'm glad you brought up New Orleans, of all places. I've never had a desire to go to New Orleans. I just haven't. Everything I've seen about it, I'm just like, ew, right? Like I've heard it.
I love it. I mean,
but I've never been.
Yeah.
But just based on what I've seen, I was like, And then I found out the other day that I'm speaking at GSX again. And guess where it is this year?
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
There you go.
So
great eating, great entertainment.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I got people on my team that are familiar with it and know where to go and not know where to go. So, but I already had those conversations, right? Like the minute I got the email from them I was like, great. I'm speaking again. That's a great opportunity, right, to speak at that conference. But I was just like, okay, well, looks like we're going to New Orleans. But same thing, because other people on my team said the same thing you just did. There's awesome stuff down there, and there's stuff you definitely need to see and do. And not far from there's things you don't need to see and do. And so understanding where those are. And if I didn't have people on my team, I've already told you who I would call. I'd call the narcotics unit for New Orleans PD and say, hey, I'm coming down. Give me some advice, on whatever that looks like. I'm pretty sure most cities like that, larger cities, their crime data is probably pretty readily available.
Most of it.
Yeah.
We hit a few cities when we go in. We try and get the crime stats, and they're covering them up, which normally should send a red flag up to about that city.
Yeah.
If they're not sharing it, it's not because it's great.
Yeah, sure, because most cities that are safe want to brag on their safety.
Correct.
So again, we don't, as any of y'all that know us know, we don't fearmonger. That's not what this is about. It's just about awareness, right? Okay, so preemptively, what are some things I can do ahead of time before I get there? Understanding where I'm going, understanding where I want to go. To Tom's point, understanding where you don't want to go that may only be 2 to 3 blocks away from somewhere you do want to go. Okay, just learn all that. It's not that difficult. It doesn't take that much time, to your point. Even if you take 25% of your time that you're going to spend doing that, looking on safety stuff, awesome. And the reality is, are you going to need it? Probably not. You're probably not going to need, but if you do, you're going to have a huge leg up on most people. There was, I don't know the guy's name, but at the Mandalay Bay shooting and Route 91 Harvest Festival, there was a guy at the concert with his significant other, his fiance, wife, whatever, but he was in our industry, security guy. And prior to the event, he had looked at the venue, he had looked at a map, he had looked at where they were sitting and all those things. And the minute gunshots rang out, he was gone. Closest exit, he knew where he was going. He knew where his closest cover or concealment was. In every direction, no matter where the problem came from, he left immediately, unscathed, no problem, because he literally spent 10 minutes looking at stuff before you went. And it's not that hard. But when people are going on vacation, they don't want to think about this stuff, right?
They go on vacation.
That's right.
You're getting away.
Right.
And bad things can still happen, even in good environments. And you can't just leave your brain on vacation. You know, keep your wits about you.
Leave your phone. You know, check out from your phone a little bit more and get your head out of your phone, especially if you're in an area that you don't know, right? Instead of walking around with your head in your phone, what it looks like, pay attention to your surroundings even more when you're on vacation because you're in an unfamiliar area. You don't know where you are. If you got your head in your phone, you're starting off behind the curve.
Well, and if I'm a bad guy, not that I have been, but
statute of limitations is running everything you've done.
If I'm standing in a downtown area or in a tourist situation and I look and there's a nice looking little family of 4 and they're all got their brochures out and their phones out and they're looking at directions and they don't make the crosswalk when it crosses and they're staying there. Number one, I know they're occupied. Their minds are not there.
Right.
You are called a target.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, they're vulnerable. And guess what? They're not going to know what to do. When they try and call 911, they're not even going to know what street they're standing on right now to even tell that.
Nope.
You know, don't advertise it. Just like don't post pictures while you're there.
Yeah.
Don't advertise, hey, I'm a dumb tourist. Come rob me.
Right.
Which is what we scream many, many times.
Or you don't have to be a tourist. We won't get into too much detail behind this event. But you know what I'm talking about, having your head in your phone in a crowded environment like that and somebody walking by and snatching your phone out of your hand, right, that you never saw coming, right? So that happens, and not to say it couldn't happen to anybody. Sure it could. But when you're in that kind of environment, and I understand why we're on our phones because we're bored, whatever, we're trying to stay entertained, but there's no way to control stuff like that. Yeah. If you're not paying attention to what's around you. And so that happened, I think, semi-recently, if I remember right.
Yeah, my son.
Oh, I wasn't going there.
On Broadway. Son, if you're listening, stay off Broadway. No, I'm kidding. It happens everywhere.
But it had everything to do with the fact that he was sitting there like, with his, right? I mean, looking
head
down.
down, not knowing
right.
who's coming, not seeing suspicious people.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to walk around paranoid.
No.
Like a parrot with their head going every direction. And
right.
Just notice what's around you. Notice, the phrase, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck.
Yep.
Talks like a duck.
Yep, probably a duck.
Yeah, you can pick it out.
But if it's a family, like I don't have any problem if we're somewhere and my daughter's on her phone. If we're sitting together and I'm bringing in my surroundings, that's fine. I mean, it's not unreasonable, but just make sure that like your whole group is not sitting there because you're just screaming like I'm a victim. Like, come take my stuff, come rob me, come whatever that is. I started to hit on this earlier and I took a detour, so sorry, but talking about what to take when you go on the road. And so medical for me is always a thing. Now, granted, it totally depends on your skill set. I don't think there's any reason at this point in this country that everybody should not attend and take a Stop the Bleed course. They're free. It's not rocket science. Understanding pre-hospital and trauma care training is not difficult. Granted, we go a lot further than that, and as a team, we have probably a little bit more of a skill set when it comes to that stuff than most people, but it's not difficult, as you know, because we've been through it. But do you have the equipment with you to do that? Do you have a tourniquet? Do you have chest seals? Do you have, or not? And if the answer is no, then that needs to change, and that's not just for when you're on vacation, if I'm being honest. I mean, that should be with you in your car, at least at a minimum at all times. I actually have a dedicated kit that goes with us on vacation, to the condo, right? Then there's always the other one in the car with us in my backpack or whatever. But And it's a combination boo-boo and trauma kit. And I know you know what I mean, but people that don't, I mean, you might need Band-Aids, you might need ibuprofen, but you also might need a tourniquet and some chest seals and, an NPA, right? A nasal pharyngeal airway, whatever. That goes with it. It goes with us when we go to the lake. It goes on the boat. Take those things with you. Don't ever put yourself in a situation where you could end up needing that. And because you don't have a few small pieces of equipment, somebody you really care about could die right in front of you, or a stranger. It doesn't matter. Literally because you didn't take the time to have a little bit of equipment, right?
And it's easy to take. It's like you said, the course is, you're not asking to be a full EMT. That's
right.
Not what it's about. It's very simple, basic, anyone can do type things if you have the training, and it's amazing what you can do with it.
Yep, 100%. We teach it as part of, as part of our active shooter response course, but the likelihood of you using it is going to be at some sort of tragic accident. The only time I've ever used it was at a bad car crash in Franklin, for those of y'all that don't know where that is, just south of Nashville, over a year ago, I guess. And I rolled up on a really bad crash, single vehicle, upside down, 2 occupants. There were probably easily 20 people there already, right? Like around the car, kneeling down.
Filming it.
Trying to... Probably a couple I didn't pay much attention. But trying to talk to these guys who are both in their seatbelts, unconscious, hanging upside down, one of them bleeding to death from his head, and they're just nobody knows what to do, Now, granted, I do this every day or several days a week, so to me, it's just I just get my stuff out and get to work, and I did. But that's the likelihood of when you're going to use that kind of stuff. So, like, chances are you're never going to have to use it. But again, if I got asked, it doesn't matter when, I got asked if I thought any of my clients from the training side of the house would ever have to face an active shooter, and my answer was yes. I mean, why do you think I started this company? Like, the answer is yes. I mean, just because these are getting more frequent, and okay, same thing here on the medical side of the house. So bad stuff happens all the time. Do a few things to help yourself. Another big one for me is on what to take, and that's just because of who I am, is some ability to defend myself and my family, and in my case, that's firearms. And I understand that's not for everybody, and that's fine. If you are a gun owner, I'll say this, and I know Tom feels the same, but I'll let him chime in additionally. But if you own a firearm, and the purpose of you owning that firearm is to protect you, protect your loved ones, or protect somebody you care about, train with that firearm.
Train and know the law.
100%.
If not, leave it at home.
That's right.
Because you're going to probably shoot yourself.
And laws are different.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, by state. So understand that those are huge issues that you could potentially bump up against as far as being comfortable on acting. I see a lot of people that have carry permits, and they say, "Oh, if I ever see an active shooter, I'm gonna go get in the fight." I'm not opposed to that, but what level of gunfight ability do you have? I mean, do you go shoot at a piece of paper that doesn't shoot back at you once a year, or do you actually train to win gunfights? And how much spare ammo do you have? And what if he's got a rifle, and like all those things? So understand your limitations, but I don't ever like being in a situation where I don't have the ability to defend myself and my family.
Yeah.
And again,
well, I
look
at the gun carry permit cards like I do the driver's license. You get a neat little card, has your picture on it, says you can do, and all you have to do is get out on the interstate and understand everybody out there that has a driver's license does not know how to drive.
Amen.
And that's no different with a gun carry permit.
That's right.
And if you practice wrong, it's just like there's people that drive every day. They still can't drive.
That's right.
It's because they're not practicing the right way.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what it is here. It's just, I guess they get them out of a bubblegum machine.
Just about. I think you're right. I think that on the protect yourself and your family side of the house, if it's not firearms, then what is it? For you, chemical spray is an excellent option. It works really well. I understand it doesn't work instantly, but it is an excellent option. But most people that carry chemical spray, have you ever fired it? Have you ever discharged it? Probably not. Hopefully not, because you don't know what you're doing. Depending on what the wind's doing, you're going to end up spraying yourself just to learn how to use it. But we literally had, like once a year in law enforcement, you literally test fire your chemical spray, right? Use the propellant, make sure it's working and all those things. Well, they sell inert units that are water, right? So when you're buying your little thing online, buy an inert unit with it, understand what it does and what it doesn't do, understand what the range is, all those sorts of things before you need it. Like, don't just assume, oh, I got this.
Yeah, we can't go with a show of hands on a podcast, but I guarantee you,
we got cameras.
98% of the people out there carrying a chemical spray, mace, or whatever have never activated one.
I would say it's higher than that if it's not law enforcement. Because
outside of law enforcement, but I mean public.
I'd say 99.
And every dad that has the great heart that I'm going to give my daughter this because she's going away, I'm going to give it to her. You know what? Buy two.
Yep.
And take her out in the backyard first and
they're
discharge
cheap.
one.
That's right.
So that she's, they're going to pull it out and go to shoot somebody 30 feet from them, and it's going 5 feet out.
Right.
And it's like, doesn't work that way. Or the wind, which that's always my favorite if you ever get videos of it when they spray them into the wind, it goes back on themselves.
I've got an epic story about that.
You want to know what that's going to do before you're standing there trying to use it.
Especially if you're counting on it. If you're counting on it to defend yourself and your family, it's like if you're a firearm person or you want to be, like you're new to guns and you get a gun for your birthday or whatever, and whoever it is, say your dad gives it to you and they're like, it's already loaded, it's good to go, whatever. You're going to just start carrying it? If you've never pulled the trigger, you don't even know how it functions, nothing, you're going to just start carrying it every day? No, probably not. My funny story on chemical spray, I got to tell you, I don't think I've ever told you the story. And I won't name the guy because he'd be embarrassed. But I was a relatively new supervisor in law enforcement, so I had to go back to patrol. So when you get promoted, you got to go back to patrol, right? Like you learn to police and patrol, you need to learn to supervise and patrol. So I was supervising this group of guys, and one of them puts out that he checked on scene with this woman who was, I guess, having some sort of mental, some sort of issues. And he checked on scene. And then a few minutes later, he puts out that he's in a foot pursuit with her. So I, of course, instantly have this visual and I'm chuckling, right? But, I don't know what it looks like. And then he actually comes on the air and says his call sign and says, he's out of breath. Like, she's in custody, but I sprayed myself. And I was like, I'm not sure how to feel about the fact that you just put that out on the radio. And
there's your sign.
Yep. And what had happened was it was very windy that day, and she ran. Then she turned to stop, I guess, and square off. I don't know. And so his first instinct was to come up and it all went right back on him, And that was it. He was done for the day.
Yeah.
Like that stuff. It's terrible. So don't spray yourself, kids.
Yeah.
It's some of the worst stuff ever.
When you check into a hotel, let's say you travel, whether it be for work, vacation, whatever, you're flying into a new city. Generally there's going to be a rental car. So what are some of the things you do from there? As far as getting to a hotel, figuring out things while you're staying at the hotel.
Yep.
What are some things?
So one big thing for me is usually I already know, at least from a compass or cardinal direction. Like I will have looked at the city where I'm flying into and know like which direction my hotel is, right? So
north, south, east, and west orientation.
Yep. And just a quick shot of the town where I'm going and where it is and kind of where it is in relation to either where my meeting is, where my training is, whatever that is. Nothing crazy, but in reality, I could probably get there or get real close without Waze, without anything else, just by doing that and taking a look. Rental cars are, just be careful. I would not have super important and privileged conversations in rental cars. You have no control over what's in that vehicle as far as listening devices go, as far as the car itself. I mean, all those sorts of things. So just, I would avoid that. Regular conversations, fine, but if it's depending on the nature of your business, and you and I know what I'm talking about because of the business we're in, but just don't trust that. Hotel rooms, rental spaces, Airbnbs, all those things. I mean, understand there's a lot of devices out there. Some of them are pretty obvious, like when people put hidden cameras in and stuff, and some of them aren't as obvious. But if you see like multiple smoke detectors in a whatever, a 15-foot radius, one of those is probably not a smoke detector. It's probably a camera. There are, on some phones, if you open the camera app and you have it completely blacked out, some of the phones will pick up some of the IR, right?
Yeah.
Some of the IR wavelength. And so you can literally scan some places with your phone. Yeah. There's other things you can do there too, but especially if you're hotels, probably not quite as prevalent because, they're not as in complete control of who's staying there, but Airbnb is notorious for it.
Yes, Airbnbs definitely check everything.
Yeah.
I want to back up just a little bit because we've said if you're getting a rental car, obviously if you get a rental car, it's you and only the people you know in that car with you outside of devices. But another popular thing is rideshare, Uber, Lyft, whatever. Yep. Oh my gosh. When people get into, they're rushing into the airport, they're trying to get where they're going, they get in the car with Uber. What people will talk about with another human sitting there driving, listening to their conversations, whether it be on the phone or whether it be two people in the car, and the information you're discussing, tell them where you're staying, what you're doing, why you're there, who's there. I can't tell you how many banned rideshare drivers at particular resorts and things like that because of their bad nature. I'm not trying to scare people from rideshare, but be smart. Don't sit there and tell your entire itinerary of what you're doing, and and I hear it. I get in there. It's like, oh, well, I'm taking this to the dinner tonight. I'm wearing this, and I'm doing this, and da-da-da. You don't know who Joe Schmo driving the dadgum car is that you're sitting there telling everything to.
Right. And
they're in a big network to share with a lot of other people.
I'm sure.
And you have to be cautious of that.
Well, and are you checking that the guy picking you up is actually the same tag on your app? All those things that are in place with rideshare apps, are you actually utilizing them for safety? You better be.
Well, and I had this the other day, and I don't remember if it was one of my kids or not, but we were getting a ride share, and the guy pulls up, rolls down the window. Never say, "Are you Rick?"
No, because they're going to say, "Yeah."
Yeah, I'm Rick.
That's right.
Okay, you're looking for Rick. Okay, well, I'm not. I'm looking for Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, see ya.
Yep.
But we don't do that. We wait. Make them say your name, or ask them who they are, or as you said, just look at the tag.
Yeah.
I mean, it sends it to you, but we so many times don't take the time to do that. But don't give out the information for free that they should know.
And just assume that they're safe to hear it. I'm trying to think how I can tell this story. I can tell it. So there's Nashville's got a lot of celebrities, right? A lot. Various celebrities, and based on the area I'm in, there's a handful out that way, right? I'll just leave it at that. And there's one that lives on my road, and I met his wife one day, and we're just talking and shooting the bull about a lot of stuff. I'm like, actually I live on the same street as you guys. And her immediate response was, "Oh, you live on," and said the street name. You know what I mean? And of course it was fine because I'm not a bad guy, and I'm not somebody just pumping her for information. But this is people that their address isn't readily available. They're all the things, right? Yeah. But she threw that out first, and I was like, "Golly, you really should." I wasn't saying anything. I just met her. I'm not trying to freak her out, but that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Is test that information, Uber, all those sorts of things. Also, in a hotel room, some sort of secondary locking device. I mean, you got to think, even when you go in and lock your hotel room door, you understand that the employees of that hotel still have access to your room. Like, it doesn't matter if you put the throw latch and all; they have access to your room. Even the deadbolt that's in there. And not all hotel employees are good people. They may work there, and that may be their job as part of a criminal network to provide information to the guys on which rooms to hit and all those things. So secondary locks, the door wedges that you can wedge under the door, that's help. It'll take them a lot longer, make a lot more noise. I don't want to say which one because we're not Haven't tested it yet, but I just got my hands on one the other day, specifically designed for hotel rooms. Secondary lock for you to put on once you're inside of there.
And even beyond that, if you don't have that, I mean, I'm constantly when I go in at night, generally I sleep with a sound machine. And so I turn that on. I'm not going to hear as much as I would, especially in a hotel, because I hear everything bump. But I set something in front of the door where it's going to make a noise. It's not a barricade to keep them out, but if somebody tries to come in, at least I know it. It wakes me up. Little things like that. The other thing is, it amazes me. People go on a trip and they're there 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Put your do not disturb sign out. I don't need somebody cleaning my room every day.
Sure.
If I run out of towels, I can go get towels.
Right.
I can even call and they'll bring them to me. But I don't let anybody in our room while we're staying there.
Yeah.
Even if it's a week.
Yeah.
And some of you probably freaking out going, that's gross. You don't allow them to change your sheets. Do you change your sheets every night at home? Some may. I don't know.
No, they don't. They're not. Nobody's being honest.
I mean, we go at least 6 months.
But that's the Mississippi in you.
Yeah. Well, I don't want somebody scouting in my room
100%.
what I have every day.
Right.
Those people are part of a network.
Yep.
Whether it just be a good network of workers there or a bad outfit outside. The other thing is that we learned, it was funny in Vegas, they actually called them door checkers, and they were paid inside the hotels to go up and down the halls, just like they were guests staying there. And all they were doing is in hotel doors, depending on the pressure, when they shut behind you, sometimes they'll latch.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't take the second to check their lock. These people out there in the hotels were paid by an organization to walk the halls and do nothing more than just check to see which doors didn't latch and were open. And then they would go in, steal the goods, and leave. And it was turned in. They didn't even get to keep the goods. They would turn it into their boss, who then would sell it online, all the goods, and then they got profit sharing. They're good humans, profit sharing off everybody else stolen stuff.
Yeah.
Check your door when you leave. Yep. Make sure it latches and catches. I mean, we're in technology. Hotel keys are the worst.
Yeah.
The other big thing we had a friend that dropped his key card in the Walgreens and then gets back to his hotel room. His buddy had a key. They got in, and while they're in there, 3 armed guys open their door and walk in. How'd they get in? His key he lost at Walgreens. Guess what it had? It was still in the little envelope.
Yep, with the number.
With the room number on it.
Yep.
And the hotel.
Yep.
Okay. If you can't remember your room number, I'm bad about that. Number one, snap a picture of it on your phone and have it, and leave your key. At least if you lose it out on the street while you're there, they generally have a lot of rooms and a lot of hotels to check.
That's
first.
Right. Yep. That's a really good point. Well, again, the point of this is never to freak people out or scare you or anything like that. And so I think hopefully for you guys, this is a lot of really common sense stuff that maybe you hadn't thought about before, but that's just because your brains don't work like Tom and I's, and that's probably best for society that everybody's not walking around with what's rolling around in our heads, if I'm being honest. But hopefully these tips are helpful, and you guys can find them helpful on how to keep yourself safer, your family safer, more prepared, your home safer. We touched on this. Let me circle back on it. If you have a major planned event, like a wedding, let's say, that your daughter's going to have a wedding, it's probably a good idea to have some sort of security at your home during that wedding, because the whole world's going to know that you're not going to be at home during that wedding. And a lot of the gifts are there and things like that. Even funerals, depending on how public it is, depending on who the person was. I know there was an NFL player, at least more than one, whose home got hit during the game because they knew, obviously, they're not going to be there during the game. So things of that nature, planned events where people are going to know you're not away from your home besides just vacation. Think outside the box a little bit there too with those other kind of planned events.
Absolutely.
I forgot to hit on that,
and lots of easy things to do there with lighting. I mean, there's apps now you can turn your lights off and on while you're away on your phone. Super easy. Buy them off Amazon.
Yep.
Easy stuff to do there. Just don't be predictable. Don't advertise yourself, and be aware. Get your head out of your phone and see what's around you.
Amen. And do whatever you can from a preparation standpoint, to take that just a little extra time that if God forbid you need it in the moment, you'll have whatever that knowledge is. And again, data doesn't lie when it comes to emergencies, and the data continues to point us there. So we're going to wrap this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. As always, if you guys have show ideas or something you want us to cover or guests you want us to have on, please just reach out to info@defensesystems.com. It's probably the easiest thing to do. We also have info@tipstacticstools.com. But either way, reach out, let us know what you guys want to hear more about, what you're more interested in. And, reviews are helpful. I always forget that. If you could leave the show a review, that's super helpful. Comment especially is very helpful. So not, just, it doesn't have to be a long review, but if you enjoy this show, then go wherever your favorite podcast place is, Apple, Spotify, whatever that is, and leave us a review. Tell us what you want to hear more of. That's all super helpful. Obviously you can find us on YouTube as well,
and Brink, if you don't like the show, you can also just go somewhere else.
It's true. Yeah. Go back to freedom, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Free country. You don't have to listen to us, but if you do like it, we want to hear about it and what you want to hear more about. So appreciate you guys listening.
I'm out.